Hey everyone, welcome back to Rewilding the Future. Today, we're diving into a wild and powerful topic, rewilding bison in Japan. We'll start by exploring the Pleistocene epoch in Japan, a time when bison, mammoths, wolves, and other giants once roamed the land. Then we'll uncover the history of bison in Japan, how they got here, and why they eventually disappeared. But that's just the beginning. Because now, we're asking the big question. Can we bring bison back? We'll talk about the best regions in Japan for rewilding bison, how they would interact with existing and future wildlife, from deer and bears to wolves, lynx, and even tigers. And finally, we'll explore why Japan needs Pleistocene rewilding now more than ever. If you're passionate about nature, conservation, or imagining a wilder future, this is the episode for you. Let's go back in time and forward into possibility. Let's get started. The Pleistocene epoch, spanning from about 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago, was a time of dramatic environmental changes and rich biodiversity across the Japanese archipelago. During this period, Japan underwent repeated cycles of glacial and interglacial periods, causing sea levels to rise and fall significantly. These fluctuations frequently connected Japan to the Asian mainland via land bridges, allowing waves of Ice Age megafauna and early humans to migrate into the islands. Japan's Pleistocene ecosystems were much more open and cold than they are today. Large herbivores like steppe bison, woolly mammoths, Naumann's elephants, and Yabe's giant deer roamed the grasslands and tundra-like environments, especially in northern Japan. Carnivores such as cave lions, tigers, leopards, primitive wolves, and large bears would have preyed on these animals, maintaining a dynamic and competitive ecosystem. One of the most iconic Pleistocene animals of Japan was Naumann's elephant, which thrived during interglacial periods and is often found in fossil deposits alongside ancient human tools. These elephants, along with bison and other megafauna, shaped the landscape through grazing, trampling, and seed dispersal. Their extinction, likely driven by a combination of warming climates, habitat loss, and increasing human pressure, marked the end of a major ecological era in Japan. Humans first arrived in Japan during the late Pleistocene, likely around 35,000 years ago, as hunter-gatherers migrating from the Asian mainland. These early people coexisted with megafauna and used stone tools to hunt, forage, and adapt to the harsh and fluctuating climates of Ice Age Japan. As the epoch drew to a close and transitioned into the Holocene, rising temperatures and sea levels reshaped the land, cutting Japan off from the continent and contributing to the extinction of many large animals that could no longer migrate or adapt. The legacy of the Pleistocene in Japan lives on in its fossil beds, archaeological sites, and surviving native species that once shared the land with giants. Rewilding efforts today, including proposals to reintroduce bison and large predators, seek to revive the ecological memory of this lost age and restore balance to ecosystems that were once shaped by the powerful forces of the Pleistocene. Bison, commonly associated with the vast plains of North America and parts of Europe, were once also present in prehistoric Japan, though not in the same form as their modern American or European relatives. The species that inhabited Japan during the Pleistocene epoch, roughly 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago, belonged to an ancient group of bovines, often classified under steppe bison. These large herbivores roamed the Japanese archipelago when it was periodically connected to the Asian mainland during ice ages, allowing migration of megafauna such as mammoths, elk, and bison. Fossil evidence from Hokkaido and other northern regions of Japan suggests that bison once formed part of a rich ecosystem of cold-adapted species. They thrived in the open grasslands and tundra that blanketed northern Japan during colder periods. However, as the climate warmed and sea levels rose after the last glacial maximum, these open landscapes gradually gave way to dense forests, reducing the suitable habitat for grazing species like bison. The extinction of bison in Japan is believed to have occurred during the early Holocene, likely between 10,000 and 8,000 years ago. This extinction was driven primarily by climatic and environmental changes, warming temperatures, shrinking grasslands, and growing forest cover. Additionally, early human populations in Japan, who were transitioning from Paleolithic to Jomon cultures, may have contributed to the decline of bison through hunting, although their exact impact remains debated. Unlike other regions where bison survived into modern times, like North America or parts of Eastern Europe, Japan's isolation following rising sea levels prevented recolonization from mainland Asia. With no migration routes and an increasingly unsuitable environment, the bison populations disappeared completely from the Japanese archipelago, leaving behind only their fossilized remains as evidence of their once prominent role in Japan's Ice Age megafauna. Japan has faced significant biodiversity loss due to centuries of deforestation, industrial development, and human expansion. Reintroducing bison, either the European bison or the American bison, could help restore balance to Japan's ecosystems. Historically, large herbivores played a crucial role in maintaining open grasslands, controlling forest encroachment, and fostering plant diversity. Reintroducing bison would not only bring back a long-lost piece of Japan's natural heritage, but also help revive dynamic landscapes that support many other species. European or American bison, which is right for Japan? Both European and American bison are well adapted to temperate climates and can thrive in mixed woodland and grassland environments similar to those found in northern Japan. The European bison is more genetically and ecologically similar to the extinct bison priscus that once lived in Japan, making it a better candidate for rewilding. European bison are also already part of successful rewilding programs in countries like Poland, Romania, and Germany, and their management is better understood. However, American bison are more numerous and genetically diverse, making them more available for relocation if needed. Bison act as ecosystem engineers. Their grazing patterns help maintain open meadows, support pollinator-friendly wildflowers, and promote biodiversity. Their hooves disturb the soil, creating microhabitats for insects and seeds. Bison dung enriches the soil and supports nutrient cycling. In Japan, where overgrown forests and monoculture plantations have replaced many of the country's diverse grasslands, bison could be a catalyst for restoring healthy, functioning ecosystems. The return of bison could also rekindle interest in Japan's prehistoric past. Educating the public about Ice Age wildlife and long-lost ecosystems, bison rewilding could become a symbol of ecological recovery and offer unique ecotourism opportunities, particularly in regions like Hokkaido, where space and climate may support their reintroduction. Reintroducing large herbivores is not without risks. Japan would need to carefully evaluate suitable habitats, land use conflicts, disease management, and the potential impact on agriculture and forestry. Large fenced reserves or rewilding parks may be necessary at first to control populations and monitor ecological effects. Public education and local community involvement would also be essential for long-term success. Rewilding bison in Japan is not just about bringing back a lost species, it's about restoring a deeper ecological balance and reconnecting people to the natural rhythms of the land. With proper planning, Japan has the opportunity to lead a pioneering rewilding project in East Asia, breathing life into ancient landscapes once again shaped by the thunder of bison hooves. Come on, let's see what beautiful places Japan has to offer to rewild bison in Japan and why these areas are suitable. Hokkaido is the most promising candidate for bison rewilding in Japan. With its cooler climate, expansive landscapes, and lower population density compared to the rest of the country, Hokkaido offers the most natural fit for a large herbivore like the bison. Its terrain includes a mix of grasslands, wetlands, and boreal forests, resembling the environments where European and American bison thrive today. Large national parks such as Daisatsuzen and Kushiro Shitsugen could serve as core zones for semi-wild bison populations, especially if rewilding is done within controlled reserves or fenced areas. The region also has cultural openness to wildlife conservation and growing interest in ecotourism. The Tōhoku region in northern Honshu has seen significant rural depopulation in recent decades, leading to abandoned farmland and underused mountainous areas. These Satoyama landscapes, traditionally managed mosaic zones between forest and agriculture, could benefit from bison reintroduction. Bison could help maintain open grasslands, reduce brush overgrowth, and foster biodiversity. Areas like the mountains of Iwate or Akita prefectures could serve as experimental zones where land is both available and semi-wild ecosystems still exist. The Japanese Alps in Nagano and Gifu have large forest reserves and high-altitude grasslands that were once home to wild herbivores like seros and deer. These highlands, such as in Chubu-Sangaku National Park, offer open meadows, cold winters, and isolation from dense urban development. While fencing and infrastructure would be needed, these regions have the potential to host small rewilding projects or conservation centers, which could later expand into larger programs if successful. While more southern and warmer, parts of the mountainous areas of Shikoku and central Kyushu, such as the ASO region, feature grasslands maintained through traditional grazing and fire management. These semi-natural environments could host smaller-scale rewilding trials using European bison to study their adaptability to Japan's southern climate. Community-led projects here could test long-term feasibility before broader rollout across the archipelago. Why these areas are suitable. Many of the proposed areas have temperate to subarctic climates similar to the original Pleistocene habitats of Japanese bison and to the climates in which European bison now live. Northern Japan and mountain regions have underused or abandoned lands, especially as rural populations decline. These areas are biodiversity hotspots, with room for ecological restoration and low risk of disrupting dense human settlements. Rewilding could bring new tourism and educational opportunities to economically struggling rural regions, sparking interest in natural heritage and conservation. Strategically chosen rewilding sites in Hokkaido, Tōhoku, and mountain regions of Honshu or Kyushu could serve as testing grounds for the return of bison to Japan. With proper ecological planning, community involvement, and scientific oversight, these regions could help reintroduce a lost giant of the Ice Age and begin a new chapter of coexistence between humans, history, and the land. Reintroducing bison to Japan's ecosystems would not only restore a lost species from the country's Ice Age past, but also influence a wide network of wildlife interactions. As large, slow-moving grazers, bison can reshape landscapes and create ecological opportunities for many native and introduced species. Their presence would impact herbivores, predators, and a variety of smaller animals directly and indirectly across the food web. Sika deer are widespread in Japan and have become overabundant in many regions, leading to overgrazing and biodiversity loss. The introduction of bison could rebalance this dynamic. Bison are bulk grazers, favoring grasses, while deer prefer a mixed diet of shrubs and forbs. Their differing diets may reduce direct competition and allow plant diversity to recover. Additionally, bison trampling and wallowing behavior creates habitat mosaics that can limit deer dominance in certain areas. Wild boar are omnivorous and adaptable, often disturbing soil in search of food. Their rooting behavior overlaps in ecological function with bison hooves, but the two would likely occupy different niches. Boars prefer forest edges and dense cover, while bison are more open grassland animals. However, bison may indirectly help boars by creating open patches that support tubers and invertebrates. Conversely, healthy grasslands maintained by bison may reduce forest overgrowth, indirectly limiting boar shelter zones. The Japanese sorrow is a solitary forest-dwelling browser, feeding on leaves, twigs, and shrubs. Its ecological role contrasts sharply with bison, which prefer open areas and graze primarily on grass. The bison's role in maintaining grasslands could actually benefit serows by preventing forests from becoming too dense, creating forest edge zones where sero thrive. Thus, the two species would likely coexist with minimal competition and may even complement one another. Reeves's muntjac is an introduced deer species now spreading in parts of Japan. It is a small, shy browser that prefers understory vegetation. Like sero, its ecological overlap with bison would be minimal. However, by promoting open grasslands and reducing dense forest regrowth, bison may reduce ideal muntjac cover, potentially slowing the species' spread. This could be a positive side effect of bison rewilding in areas where muntjac are invasive. The Misaki horse is a feral horse population in Kyushu. If bison were introduced into shared ranges, the two species might compete for grass, but since Misaki horses are few in number and confined to a narrow coastal range, the risk of conflict is low. In broader grasslands, both species could coexist much like bison and wild horses in the American West, especially if grasslands are managed to prevent overgrazing. Once extinct in the wild, Père David's deer could potentially return to semi-wild landscapes in East Asia. These large deer are adapted to wetlands and marshy areas. If introduced alongside bison, both species could use different parts of the habitat, bison favoring drier meadows and Père David's deer browsing near water. The two could coexist peacefully and boost overall biodiversity. If future rewilding efforts ever included Asian elephants, interactions with bison would be complex. Elephants are major ecosystem engineers, capable of knocking down trees and shaping water holes, while bison manage grasses and open habitat. In large reserves with sufficient space, the two could coexist and even complement each other ecologically, creating a more dynamic and diverse ecosystem. though this would require careful habitat design, as elephants are more demanding and can be destructive in limited space. Japanese macaques are highly adaptable and may benefit from the ecological mosaic created by bison. As bison graze in open, dense underbrush, macaques could find new foraging grounds and easier movement through landscapes. Bison dung also increases insect activity, potentially supporting macaque foraging behavior. Rodents, hares, and insectivores could benefit from the bison's landscape disturbance. Trampling creates bare soil patches, which small mammals use for burrows and foraging. Additionally, bison dung provides microhabitats for insects, which in turn feed small mammals and birds. Grassland expansion under bison grazing would help restore populations of species currently struggling in overforested or degraded farmland. Bison benefit grassland birds by creating varied vegetation height and exposing seeds and insects. Insects attracted to dung attract insectivorous birds, while the open landscape supports ground nesting species like larks, pipits, and possibly cranes in wetland-adjacent zones. Bison could also indirectly support raptors like hawks and owls by increasing small mammal populations in healthy grasslands. If the extinct Canis hodophylax, the Japanese wolf, were found to survive or could be resurrected through cloning or backbreeding, their interaction with bison would likely be minimal. The Japanese wolf was smaller than modern wolves and more adapted to hunting smaller prey such as deer, wild boar, and small mammals. While they may have scavenged from bison carcasses or preyed on weakened calves, they would not be significant predators of adult bison. However, their presence would add richness to the ecosystem and could help regulate secondary herbivore populations that bison alone could not control. Gray wolves are top predators capable of hunting bison, especially in coordinated packs. If gray wolves are reintroduced to Japan, an idea that has been debated for decades, they would likely interact with bison in much the same way as they do in North America and Europe. Wolves prefer to target old, weak, or young bison, keeping populations healthy and preventing overgrazing. Reintroducing both bison and wolves could reestablish a natural predator-prey balance that would echo Ice Age dynamics and modern Yellowstone-like systems. However, the success of this relationship would depend on large wild habitats and human tolerance for carnivores. Red foxes are widespread in Japan and would not pose a threat to bison, but they could benefit indirectly from bison presence. Foxes often scavenge from large kills made by wolves or boar, and may follow bison trails to feed on insects stirred up by movement or on small mammals that live in bison-modified habitats. Bison dung also supports insect populations that foxes can exploit. Foxes may also feed on afterbirth or very young bison calves, though this would be rare and opportunistic. Raccoon dogs, common throughout Japan, are omnivores and opportunistic feeders. They would not interact directly with bison, but could scavenge bison dung, placenta, and carcasses and take advantage of increased insect and small animal populations in bison-grazed areas. Like foxes, they may also follow bison trails to forage. In Hokkaido, brown bears still roam the forests. While adult bison are too large and dangerous for brown bears to hunt, calves or sick individuals could be taken opportunistically. More importantly, brown bears would benefit from bison's ecological engineering. Bison create open spaces and disturb soil, which can increase the availability of roots, berries, and prey. Bears might also scavenge bison carcasses, gaining essential nutrition. The coexistence of the two would mimic relationships seen in Siberia and North America. Asian black bears are more common in Honshu and are generally more forest-adapted than their brown cousins. Direct interactions with bison would be limited, but bison would help by maintaining forest-edge meadows where black bears forage for insects, berries, and small mammals. Bison presence could thus increase habitat heterogeneity and food availability for black bears in mixed environments. The native leopard cat is a small, forest-dwelling feline that feeds primarily on rodents, birds, and small reptiles. It would have little direct interaction with bison, but like foxes, may benefit from ecosystem changes caused by bison. The disturbance of grassland and the increase in small mammal populations that thrive in bison-managed open habitats would support the leopard cat's prey base. If the Eurasian lynx is reintroduced to Japan, it would likely focus on smaller prey such as deer, hares, and young ungulates. Bison calves could occasionally be vulnerable, but lynx prefer more manageable prey. Like the wolf, the lynx would benefit from increased prey diversity and habitat complexity brought about by bison presence. Open woodlands maintained by bison might also provide new hunting grounds. If leopards were ever reintroduced to Japan, for example the Amur leopard from Russia, they might occasionally prey on young bison calves, but would likely target easier prey such as deer and boar. Leopards are ambush predators and prefer forested or mixed habitats where they can hide and stalk. In bison-inhabited grasslands, leopards might become more active along the edges or near water sources where prey gathers. Bison presence could indirectly benefit leopards by attracting deer and other prey animals to healthy, open habitats. Reintroducing tigers, particularly the Siberian tiger, is a more speculative but fascinating idea. Tigers are powerful enough to take down adult bison, especially if sick or isolated. In Russia's Far East, tigers prey on red deer, wild boar, and sometimes cattle or bison-sized ungulates. If reintroduced to Japan, perhaps in large forested zones of Hokkaido or mountainous Honshu, tigers could play a role as apex predators controlling bison populations. This would require vast protected reserves and careful management, but would restore an ancient predator-prey relationship once present in East Asia. The extinct Eurasian cave lion once hunted bison during the Ice Age in Europe and possibly parts of northern Asia. If Asiatic lions were reintroduced as a symbolic replacement, they could fulfill a similar role. Lions hunt in groups and are more grassland-oriented than tigers, making them a better fit for open meadows. In managed reserves with sufficient space, Asiatic lions and bison could coexist in a predator-prey system similar to that of prehistoric Eurasia. This would require large fenced landscapes, careful management, and a long-term vision of rewilding as both restoration and symbolic healing of lost ecosystems. Bison are more than just large grazers. They are keystone species capable of unlocking complex ecological interactions across Japanese landscapes. From reshaping plant communities to supporting insects, birds, and mammals, their return could spark a cascade of positive biodiversity effects. Rewilding bison would not be an isolated event, but part of a broader strategy to heal ecosystems and reconnect fragmented relationships between species, some of which haven't existed in harmony since the Ice Age. Bison are a cornerstone species in restoring balance to landscapes, but their full ecological role blossoms when interacting with predators and scavengers. From scavenging foxes and tanuki to apex predators like wolves, bears, and possibly lions or tigers, the presence of bison helps reactivate ancient ecological relationships. Rewilding efforts in Japan should consider these interactions not as risks, but as opportunities to reweave a long-lost tapestry of life, one in which balance, diversity, and wild beauty are once again possible. Why Japan needs Pleistocene rewilding? Japan's ecosystems are a shadow of their former selves. Once home to Ice Age giants like bison priscus, mammoths, wild horses, lions, and wolves, the Japanese archipelago hosted a vibrant network of interdependent species shaped over millennia. Today, many of these species are extinct, endangered, or ecologically absent, leaving behind broken food webs, overgrown forests, collapsing grasslands, and imbalanced prey populations. Pleistocene rewilding offers a chance to restore Japan's natural heritage, biodiversity, and ecological functions by reviving the kinds of animals that once defined its landscapes. Large herbivores like bison, wild horses, and possibly elephants were essential engineers of the land. Their grazing and movement created open meadows, maintained grasslands, dispersed seeds, and fertilized soil. In their absence, forests have overgrown. Many of Japan's natural meadows have disappeared, and invasive species like deer have exploded in number, causing serious ecological damage. Rewilding bison, horses, and even elephants could restore balance, reopening lost habitats for birds, butterflies, and small mammals while recreating dynamic living landscapes. Without apex predators like wolves, lynx, and big cats, prey animals such as sika deer and wild boar have become overabundant in Japan. These species overgraze and damage forests, preventing regeneration and destroying native plant communities. Reintroducing predators, including gray wolves, Eurasian lynx, and possibly tigers or leopards, would help regulate these populations. When paired with large herbivores like bison, this creates a complete self-regulating system where balance emerges naturally through interaction, not human micromanagement. Bison, elephants, lions, wolves, and bears are all keystone species, animals whose presence dramatically influences the entire ecosystem. Bison dung supports insect populations, which feed birds and small mammals. Wolves reshape prey behavior, preventing overgrazing in specific areas, a phenomenon known as the ecology of fear. Elephants open dense thickets and create water holes that serve amphibians and fish. By reintroducing these powerful ecological actors, Japan can unlock biodiversity that has long been suppressed or forgotten. Japan was once connected to the vast grasslands and mixed forests of Ice Age Eurasia, and its wildlife reflected that connection. Pleistocene rewilding is not about introducing exotic species, it's about returning functional analogs of animals that once lived there. Asian elephants mirror the mammoths and Paleoloxodon that roamed Japan. European bison are ecological cousins of the extinct steppe bison. Asiatic lions, tigers, and leopards can replace cave lions and saber-tooths. This is restoration, not invention, a healing of ecological memory. Healthy ecosystems are more resilient to climate change. Grasslands maintained by herbivores can store massive amounts of carbon in their soils. Forests shaped by predators and large mammals grow stronger and more diverse. Wetlands opened by elephant-like animals help manage floods. Japan, vulnerable to climate extremes, could use Pleistocene rewilding as a natural climate defense, building robust carbon-rich landscapes through ecological processes, not just infrastructure. Japan's Shinto and Buddhist traditions recognize the sacredness of nature and the interdependence of life. Rewilding offers a living expression of these beliefs, bringing back not just animals, but the spirit of a wilder, more balanced world. It could also inspire new generations of ecologists, artists, and nature lovers, while boosting ecotourism and rural revitalization in depopulated areas like Hokkaido, Tōhoku, or Kyushu. Japan doesn't need a zoo, it needs an ecological renaissance. Pleistocene rewilding is a visionary approach that can restore damaged ecosystems, regulate runaway prey populations, reintroduce wonder, and reconnect humans to the living story of the land. By bringing back ancient rhythms through bison, wolves, wild horses, and great cats, Japan can heal its landscapes and become a global leader in rewilding, where the past is not just remembered, but revived to shape a better, wilder future. As we've seen, bringing bison back to Japan isn't just about reintroducing a magnificent mega herbivore. It's about restoring ancient ecological processes, rebalancing predator-prey relationships, and reviving the dynamic landscapes that have been lost since the Pleistocene. From Hokkaido's tundra-like grasslands to the Satoyama mosaics of Tōhoku, bison can help reconnect people and wildlife, heal ecosystems, and inspire a new era of nature conservation across the archipelago. Share your voice. Comment below. Where would you most like to see bison roam in Japan? Get involved. Support local conservation groups working on habitat restoration and wildlife corridors. Spread the word, like this video, and share it with fellow nature lovers to build momentum for rewilding projects. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our upcoming deep dives into Pleistocene rewilding projects around the world. Next week, we'll explore the bold idea of rewilding brown bears in North Africa. Yes, you heard that right. We'll uncover the ancient history of Atlas bears, their extinction, and the growing conversation around restoring large carnivores to Mediterranean ecosystems. Thank you for watching, and let's work together to bring the thunder of bison hooves back to Japan's wild places. Until next time, stay curious and keep pushing for a wilder future.